Hello, everybody, and welcome to GoIndieNow's live panel discussion show for July. I am your host, Joe Compton. Thank you so much for joining us. I have an awesome panel here, and we're going to try and discuss setting realistic goals for you as an artist, as an author, as a writer, as whatever you're trying to make your goals be for. This is a subject that was brought to our attention by Heather Lang. Thank you, Heather, for the suggestion, and it seemed to bring some people on board. So I think that it's a worthy topic, so we're going to discuss it here tonight. And before I introduce the panel, well, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and introduce the panel. I'll have each of you introduce yourselves. And as always, I start from my left to my right, which unfortunately for this time, we have the rookie joining us, who's going to be the first person to give us our information. So I hope Alicia's ready. Tell everybody who you are and what you do, Alicia.
I'm Alicia. Hi, everybody. I wrote a book called 143. It comes out in October, and I'm just like over the moon because my dream that I've had for 25 years is coming true. So, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, and well, congratulations on accomplishing a goal. That's awesome, and that's very apropos of what we're doing tonight. So that's pretty cool. All right, Christie.
Hey everyone, I'm Christie Stratos. I'm the author of Anatomy of a Darkened Heart and Lock and Key, both in the Dark Victoriana collection. I'm also on Wattpad with short stories less than 1,000 words, and I've had enough experience in not meeting goals and then meeting goals to be able to be on this panel.
I hope that we get to talking about a really goal that you have been trying to achieve since I've known you, that you did achieve this year. So I hope we get to talk about that a little bit. But Heidi.
Hello, everybody. My name is Heidi Angell, and I am the CFO for Our Right Side, OWS Inc. And I am a published author with 9 books out. And everybody talks about me being the goal person because I'm always achieving so much. So I'm here to talk about how I don't achieve as much as you think, but how I achieve what I do achieve.
That sounds awesome. And I know that Heidi wants to go at this topic pretty well. So I'm excited to have her here. All right, Sarah.
Hi, my name is Sarah Buhrman. I am the author of the Rune Spell series as the Lena Grace, and I've been published 15 times in the last 3 years, so I know how to meet a goal and get things done. So hopefully some of my practical insight will be helpful.
I'm sure it will be. That's pretty awesome. That's fantastic to have you here, and thank you for joining us. Oops. Uh-oh. What happened? Oh. All right. That was weird. All right. My screen just went completely green. Strange. Anyway, as always, live, everybody, we just do it well. We just excel. Our goal to have a non-technical, mistake-free show just went out the window within 10 seconds. So awesome. All right. So we've achieved one goal already tonight, which is have a technical glitch. So, all right. I just wanted to start by talking about how we define realistic goals. And I wanted to start with a quote that I found online. And it's from the famous artist Pablo Picasso. And it's, "Our goals can only be reached through a vehicle of a plan in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other route to success." So I want to know from each of you, how do you define realistic goals?
Do we just...
Yep. Yeah, whoever wants to start goes. Yep.
Defining realistic goals. I don't know. I'm kind of going to this with this author thing, like full on balls to the wall, Like, I network from the time I wake up until like the time I go to bed. I'm reaching out to everybody. Like, 143 is on the other side of the globe. Like, I have people in Australia, New Zealand, and it's just reaching more to you, reaching more of myself to you. So that's my goal within the next few months. And with as much as I work my butt off every day networking, I'm pretty confident that it will happen.
I'm notorious for. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say I'm notorious for making SMART goals, but making too many SMART goals, which we'll get into later about. But I literally follow the SMART plan, which is specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and timely is the definition of a SMART goal. And I use that in conjunction with 90-day goals to set up my plans for the year and remeasure them every 90 days. For those of you who follow the Our Right Side blog, I actually just, I think it was last week, posted the Q3 90-day check-in. And so that's how I do that. But I'm a big fan of one of the biggest quotes that I live by is that if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you still land among the stars. So the whole measurable and attainable pieces, I mean, I have that piece in my 90-day piece, but my big plan is like over the moon because I don't plan SMART goals.
I'd have to agree with that. I tend to go from a top-down perspective, and how I do that is I periodically revisit what I kind of want my lifetime author goal to be. And, you know, for me at this time, it was back and forth between being that gets a message out and being the kind of author that actually makes money. But those feed into what I make my yearly goals as, and they feed into what, you know, that all feeds into what my monthly goals are, my quarter, and then, you know, I even break it down to day-to-day goals, and all of that feeds into the one.
Yeah, I keep a pretty tight calendar and a lot of reminders because I'm not going to remember, even if I have major goals, it's really easy to forget day to day where you're going in the month. And whatever I know at the beginning of the month, I can count on being probably 50% busier during the rest of the month. So I need to plan my time carefully around that and use sort of stolen hours for my to achieve realistic goals with writing. That's become a lot easier since not being in a full-time job and being self-employed instead and deciding on my own time. But when I was with the corporation, it was very difficult to plan realistic goals. I would have to really just plan like sort of 15 minutes a week on writing, which was very painful, but it was realistic and it was doable. And so one of the things that's most important with realistic goals is having the experience with trying to reach them, that you know what's achievable. And without that, you know, without falling and stumbling and making mistakes, it's really, really hard to know what is even realistic. So, you know, don't feel bad about missing anything because that has to happen for you to even set realistic goals.
Yeah. So
I totally.
Sorry, go ahead.
You and I seem to get ideas at the same time.
My brain's always running.
I also find that the opposite is true. I frequently find certain goals overwhelming if I haven't done them before. So I periodically have to push myself to something that I think might be unachievable in order to see if I can actually do it.
I have a quick question for Christie, because you just joined the ranks of self-employed this year, right?
Yeah.
Have you found that suddenly you're working like 20, 22-hour days and you're like, what was I thinking? Oh my gosh, I need to go to bed. I have to schedule rest time and vacation time and family time so that it doesn't all just become work. Have you had that struggle yet?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. because of my full-time job and the way it was, and the fact that I had my editing business and my author stuff and the Writer's Edge, etc., at the same time, I had that struggle already. But I can say that it's much easier to balance my time. Not necessarily, like you said, it's really important to schedule that relaxation time. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen. It is easier for me to just figure out what I want to do when. But like you said, it's exciting and it's stuff you want to do. So you end up overworking a lot because you like it and you're passionate. Whereas, in the corporate world, you're sort of overworking and exhausted. The other way is you get exhausted and don't even realize it half the time. But yeah, it's definitely, you have to be kind of careful with that, and scheduling your time, making sure you have that time to regenerate is so important, and still something I have to schedule for sure.
And just for the record, that was the goal I was referring to, Christie. So what is the best way to set goals? What have you found has been the best way? Short to long, one end goal, starting small and working your way up, achieving goals, and then seeing if you can get higher, or just going for it. What have you found is the best method that works for you in terms of setting goals?
I start with my dreams, and that is my 5-year plan. This is where I want to be in 5 years. And then I work backwards. And when I plan for my year, it's with that 5-year goal in mind. And then from my year, I plan my 90 days. And this is the things that I'm focusing on this 90 days to get me that much closer to my 1 year, to my 5 year, and so on and so forth. And then I overschedule because, I'm a masochist.
I start with my dreams too. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go right ahead.
You do it.
I find that it's so individualized. Each person does their goals, because I know that I struggled for a long time figuring out for me. And for me, focusing on, I have the big dream goals and I have the individual day goals and everything like that. And those are very important. But the thing that really drives me is my quarterly goals.
I have my dream in the distance, and it's I want to end up in a beach house in Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina, and I'm going to have my writer shack facing the ocean. And I just keep thinking about that. It's just in my head. And I'm if I work my behind off for this amount of days, this many hours a day, I will end up in that beach house in my writer shack. And I'm at this point where I've worked so hard towards this goal that I'm all I'm doing it. And if you know me, you know that I have it all planned out, and I make sure I accomplish everything that I want.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been an adventure, to say the least.
That's what most experts say, people who are super successful will say exactly that, Alicia, that you should be super positive and visualize what it is you want. And that's how they say that you achieve it, because it sort of opens your subconscious mind to ideas and things that you may not have thought of doing to achieve those goals. So, I'm sort of trying to get on that path now. That's where I'm trying to get, But for now, I usually go after my daily goals. I have a lot of those. So there's obviously a lot to do every day. And then I fit in my dreams into those to make sure that everything gets done. Otherwise, it'll make me super nervous. And so I fit everything in sort of around that. My writing time gets fit in around that. And then I can say, well, if I wake up early, I'll have this much time and I can fit it in. Or if I just take my lunch to do this much or whatever, it's a lot easier now to schedule my time. So I do have to put, for my own comfort, that's just how I work, the things that I need to do on a daily basis first, and then fit in my passions around it. And like I said, it's much easier to do now.
Oh yeah, I have daily lists. Well, actually, I have daily and weekly lists that I track and keep. Our right side, the whole executive board, we share each other's keep lists so we can cheer each other on when we're getting stuff done and offer support when we're struggling. But I love my keep list. There's just nothing better than being able to mark through that thing that needs to be done and feel like you're one step closer to where you're going towards,
That's a really good idea. Like, I have the same problem. Like, you said that you don't schedule rest time. Like, I don't schedule rest time. So, like, I just thought of, like, maybe I need to give somebody my Facebook password and be like, change it and don't tell me the new password until Monday morning. Because then I can take the whole weekend off and just, like, be me and relax and not be on my phone 24/7. I think that's what I'm going to do.
This is my rest time. Shh, don't tell anybody. I'm just kidding. Well, when I have awesome panelists, that certainly is the case. And I do tonight, so I'm real excited about that. So what are some signs that it's time to change course with your goals? What are some of the things that you look for that says, you know what, I think this goal may be unachievable, or maybe I'm going at it wrong? What are some of those signs that you look for?
That's very specific for me, but that's a part of that SMART planning that I'm looking at. Perfect example, the last 90 days, well, every 90 days, my goal is to increase my social media response and engagement. And so I track the numbers and I track the things that I'm doing. And if something that I'm doing stops working, I change it up. I mix it up. And I just recently did that for the OWS Authors and On. It's a group that is for authors to network marketing. And we were doing daily challenges where people were, following each other on Twitter and sharing each other to each other's Twitter audiences, following each other on Facebook, and so on and so forth. And every day there was a new challenge, and it was all about how to network and how to share each other's networks and audiences. And we were growing exponentially, but we were seeing less engagement and participation on each of the posts. And so I said, okay, I need to do something different. Well, because this group is very specifically targeted at authors working together, I asked them, and I created a poll and asked them what of the things that we were doing before that they liked, what are the things that they didn't, and a couple of suggestions of things that we could do moving forward, and then ask them to make other suggestions if they had other thoughts. And so that was really helpful and has led to us doing a monthly Facebook Live, basically training seminar on different DIY marketing techniques. And I let the group vote on those each month. So in that case, it was going to the audience and figuring it out. But with each one, you want to have your trackables, which again is part of the SMART goal. And you want to make sure that you're tracking it. And if you don't see the number growing the way you want, then you need to reevaluate what you're doing to get to that goal. I don't think any goal is unachievable or unrealistic. You either A, lose the passion for the goal, or B, decide you want to take a different route. But no goal is unachievable in my mind. Dreams maybe, but not goals.
I think you can, I agree with you, Heidi. I think that you can set goals too high sometimes. Whereas like when I would try to do NaNoWriMo while I was with my corporate job, it was literally impossible because I was working 9 to whenever, pretty much, and there was no spare time. And so I had to just adjust that. So like you said, it's not unachievable. I need to change that goal, and I needed to change it to something that I could do. Otherwise I started feeling very much discouraged and sort of like, how come everyone else is, doing this and I can't? And well, it's because I set a goal for myself that I literally don't have time for. That just makes me feel not so good. So I would reset it at that point and say, okay, well, there's no way I'm going to make it to 50,000 words, but I can definitely make it to 10,000 or 20,000. And while that may not feel so good in the way of like, I want to make it to 50,000, at the same time, if you know that you're not going to, and that at the end of NaNoWriMo, you're going to feel pretty bad, it's worth resetting that goal at that point. But that's a reset. It's not, like, oh, this is unachievable. Like you're saying, Heidi, I need to rethink this a little bit. in terms of when I know that something needs to be changed, or I forget exactly how you phrased it, Joe, but basically I'll look at what I'm leaving out of my daily routine. And that's usually what I need to make sure I'm making time for. So like if I'm leaving writing out every day, I need to make sure that I put that in my schedule. I put a reminder, I set a time, and that way it has to get done. You know, I could just be leaving it out because I'm putting everything else first. Everything else can be easier to schedule when it's not as creative, or you owe it to someone, and writing you just owe to yourself, you know? So, you know, that's how I usually evaluate, oh, I'm not doing this at all. Let me pick that up and put it somewhere so I can make sure that I am doing it.
Oh, NaNoWriMo. Is that not the one that changes everybody's goals? Is it not, right? It's the one that we all, that goals become very scary at that point, don't they?
I cheated one time for NaNoWriMo. I already had my book written. And like it took me over a year to write, and I just copied and pasted it. And I'm like, yeah, I won. This will never happen again. So I like got that over with. So I'm like, no, never again.
I always plan to do Nano when I can do Nano. And some years I just know that, you know, where I am in my 90-day goal, it's not practical. So I don't set myself up to fail for something that's not where my focus needs to be at that time. But I write 50,000 words a month on a regular basis, just not always in November. So, you know.
For those of you who don't know, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, and you write 50,000 words in 30 days. So you were probably like, what are they talking about? That's now you know.
No, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Yeah. But the one thing that Nano does say, and this goes to the last question, is that the goal you set is not always the goal you achieve, and you should be happy to achieve anything. And that's Nano's point, is to achieve something. It's not to always get the 50,000 words. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, but for at least that's what I get from Nano, you know, participants. Most of them I know don't make it, but they make something, and that becomes an achievable set for people, right?
Right. Well, the struggle is when you have a type A personality, if you don't achieve your goals, it can be really crippling, and it makes you quit everything. So for those perfectionists out there, I sympathize. I actually adopted about 4 years ago a quote from, I guess it was about 3 years ago, from George Patton, that has helped me get past my perfectionist issues. And that is that a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. So that has made me get the ball moving on things a lot faster for quite a few things, because good enough is good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it never can be, you know, realistically speaking. So
we had a great question from the chat, which was from Rebekah Jonesy, and she asked, what is the difference between dreams and goals? How would you define that difference? I know that, Heidi, you answered it in the chat, but you're welcome to say it here as well.
Well, if nobody else is jumping in, goals are just dreams with deadlines, which is kind of a paraphrasing of another quote that Corey was kind of going for. But to me, dreams are what fuel your goals. But if you never get past the dreaming stage and actually set goals towards your dreams, then you'll never achieve anything. And so dreams can be great to motivate you, but at the same time, they can keep you distracted from doing the work that you need to do to get to those dreams. And a perfect example is, I'm going to call my 17-year-old son out here. Shh, hopefully he's not watching this. But my 17-year-old son wants to be a YouTube star. He's had a YouTube channel for 5 years. He posts one video a week. I have been trying and trying and trying to get him to Look at the YouTube Creator Studio. Look at the different groups that kind of help teach you how to market your YouTube videos. Look at what's making money. He's doing video game things. And I was like, dude, maybe you should look at Twitch. And all he does is he posts his one video every single week. He doesn't edit it. He doesn't make any effort to make it good. He doesn't make any effort to reach out to other YouTubers. He's not doing the work. He's just fantasizing about the dream and doing the fun parts. And no matter what job you do, any job you do, there's work that needs to be done. It's the same thing with writing. I run into so many writers that are like, I just want to sit in my little writer shack and write and not have to worry about anything else. It's not possible, because writing is just part of what you want, right? The other part is you want to be read. And how are you going to get read if you're not out there marketing your book and telling people about your book and sharing your passion? And people are like, oh, well, if I had a traditional deal, I wouldn't have to do that. That's not fair. Why should I have to do that? But if you look at the history of writing all the way back to Galileo made multiple copies of his dissertations, and he shared them wide. And that's why his dissertations are still around today, because he did that work. You know, you look at some of the famous, the guy that wrote Huckleberry Finn. Oh my gosh, Samuel Clements. That's not his author name though.
Mark Twain.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I had a problem with his name last time we talked too, Joe. Anyway, he bought a printing press, people, because he couldn't get any of the traditional publishers to take his latest book. And he was like, you know what? Forget it. I'll print it myself and I'll sell it myself, because he was going to make sure his books got read.
I actually have, I'm sorry.
A goal is the final, a dream is the final destination. A goal is the steps that you need to take to get there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the dream can determine the goals. Just like, Alicia, you have in your head like that perfect picture of where you want to be. That's a good thing. It's one thing I read a blog one time where this girl said she wanted to be a writer, and she said, I always imagined that I would just like go shopping for half the day. I'm not even exaggerating. I'd go shopping for half the day, and then like I'd have this, gorgeous boyfriend, and then I'd go home and like type for an hour and then go to like some amazing parties and stuff. I always thought that's what being a writer was. And I'm finding out it's hard work. And that really cracked me up, because it's really not what writing even is. I mean, not even if you really love writing, that's not what it is. It's actually writing and getting recognition, but not spending most of your time not writing. You know what I mean? So if you have a dream that has absolutely nothing to do with how you're getting there, I don't think that that's quite like a viable dream. Having a dream that is like, I want to be a writer and have like a beach house or whatever, like Alicia was saying, then that's a different thing. But, I think that your dreams, like you were saying, I agree with you too, Sarah, that, your dreams should determine your goals. So if your dream is to be a writer and to be a writer full time, then each of those goals along the way is of course going to lead to your dream, and that's achievable.
Ever since I was 8 years old, my dream was to be a writer. Like, I wanted to write, and I wrote every day. And then I got to middle school, and I took all the writing classes. And then in high school, I took all the writing classes. I majored in creative writing in college, and I was studying to go to Iowa City, University of Iowa, to their creative nonfiction program where Kurt Vonnegut studied. But it got off track, but like I've based my entire life around me getting a book published, and just the fact that like it's happening, it blows my mind. Like, my dreams are my goals. When I was 14, I wanted to fly across the country and live in California. A month after I graduated high school, I flew across the country and lived in California. Like, all of these things that I want, I make it happen because I want them that bad. So my dreams are my goals.
Awesome. So let's say, like there's a great moment in Princess Bride when Inigo Montoya discovers that he's accomplished the one goal he's been looking for his entire life. He's been working toward this goal. He finally accomplished it, and he's like, "What do I do now? I've been looking for revenge my whole life, and I finally got it, and I don't know what to do with myself." So what do we do when we achieve a goal? Do we go big? Do we go for another goal? What is something that you guys do when you guys knock spots off your list or cross things off?
Look for the next one.
That's what led me to Our Right Side. To be perfectly honest, my goal was to be a successful author and to make a living as an author. I achieved that. And then my next goal was, okay, well, while I'm still doing this, I want to start teaching other authors who are coming into it what I've learned and how to do some of the things that I'm doing. And so I created my virtual book tour masterclass, and Amanda Mabry took it and she loved it. And so we started collaborating on OWSU. And then next thing I knew, I was sitting on the board and responsible for the money. And we build bigger goals every day. So yeah, it's awesome.
I have a traditional publisher, and right now, like, my goal is I have to increase my fan base, because it's so weird to say that I have fans, because I'm all like, there are days where I'm like, my shirt is inside out. I may or may not have forgotten to put pants on. Like, how am I, like, attracting fans? So she was all like, increase your goal 10% each month. And I'm like, okay, let's make this happen. So.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's something that's very targeted. So it makes a lot of sense to do that. And definitely, I mean, hopefully we all achieve goals, whether they're small or big along the way. And, I mean, goals can even be like, oh, I'm doing YouTube, I need a better camera. My goal is to afford that better camera, So that's one. And it can be small or medium, depending on how you look at it, or how hard it is to afford that camera or find it or whatever. But all of those should count as goals. And I think one way we tend to just sort of cheat ourselves is to not think of enough things that we've achieved. And there are a lot of things along the way that we achieve, little things that we achieve that are really important. As an editor, each manuscript I finish, each new person who is referred to me, things like that, those are all great achievements, right? And so I have to count those. Otherwise, I would feel like whatever my ultimate dream is way far out there. And it's really, I mean, for every little achievement you get, that's that much closer to getting to that big goal. But of course, like, everyone's saying, once you reach your goal, you need to set something further ahead. Otherwise, what are you going to do? Unless you're happy just where you are. And that's fine too. Some people get where they're going and they're like, okay, I'm good. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Goal.
Say that again, Sarah. I didn't catch that.
Maintaining where you're at is also a goal. Perfectly valid.
So what have you found that you respond better to goals that you haven't achieved or goals that you do achieve? How have you felt once a goal either runs its course and it hasn't been the way you wanted it to be, or when you've achieved that goal, do you feel like the accomplishment outweighs all of the struggle?
I will say that. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
I can honestly say that no matter what my goal has been, no matter whether I have actually achieved it or not, I have learned effort of achieving the goal. And everything from marketing by the way, change by the minute, the year or the month. They change by the minute. All of the tips and keeping that all in my head and being able to, make changes to ads, to networking, even to, the style that I write in new things. I cannot say that any goal has been completely useless because
Did we lose her?
Yeah, I think she froze.
Oh, I thought she just wrapped up. She said, no goal is useless because as long as we learn something, it's good.
Nice.
I think goals are pretty ravenous things. And so when we reach one, it's sort of exciting at the moment, and then you're like hungry for the next thing. So when I finished my first book, that was exciting, but I was excited, and then I said, okay, now to move on. I want to move on now. And that's really exciting. And so when I published my first book, I was also excited for, I don't know, 24 hours, 48 hours, however long it lasts. And then I'm like, oh, I can't wait for the next thing, So, I think that's part of what's so great about these goals. And even if those goals are equal, just publishing one book, publishing a second, a third, a fourth, if you consider those equal, it's still equal exciting, at least in my opinion. And so I think just like going after them continually feels really good. And if you don't reach a goal, I think like all of us could, it can hurt, it can hurt depending on what it is. But I think the most important thing is to look at it and say, well, what happened and why? And as long as you sort of get something out of that and you understand what went wrong, was it just spending my time in like not the wisest manner? Was it that I didn't do a step I should have? Did I try to skip ahead too far? Stuff like that. If you can identify why it didn't happen, then you've learned something, and that's kind of part of the goal of life anyway. So, you've achieved something regardless.
I don't know if it's the medication I'm on because of the surgery, but I'm feeling super quotable tonight. But another favorite quote, and this is weird because I don't live my life by quotes, I swear I don't. But another favorite quote is Albert Einstein said, I didn't fail 1,000 times when creating the light bulb. I just found 1,000 ways in which it did not work. And his point from that is exactly what Christie and Alicia were just saying. As long as you learn something from it, it isn't failure. It's just, this is the way that doesn't work. And then move on to the next thing. And I think that attitude, I've had that ever since I was little, is a huge part of why, even though I'm a type A perfectionist personality, I don't get crushed when I don't achieve all of my goals. I just say, okay, so I achieved these 2 or 3. And that's awesome. I got started on these 3 or 4, and that's great. Now let's focus more on these 3 or 4. And I never see it as a failure when I don't achieve all of the balls that I'm juggling. I just learn to adjust the number of balls and keep moving forward. Whereas other people, they feel like if they plan too many, Michael Hyatt does a course that talks about the 7 deadly sins of goal setting. And one of the big ones is setting too many goals. He recommends 3 to 5. And I try to do that. I really do. But then I do 3 to 5 in my personal life, 3 to 5 in my personal writing, 3 to 5 in my business. And then I'm like way over the top from what he said. But I try to balance each one because, again, it's that whole shooting for the moon. If I work on 15 goals and I achieve 7 of them, I just achieved 2 more than Michael Hyatt suggested I should try. So rather than beating myself up on the fact that I didn't finish the other 7, I celebrate the fact that I finished the 7, and then I get to work on the other 7 and maybe throw in about 10 or 15 more because I'm obnoxious.
Go big or go home. That's how I roll.
Nice. So we have some authors, we have some authors and artists watching us right now, and there's been a lot of talk about this in the chat, and hey, look, we all don't have the luxury of doing this full time. So what, for somebody who has no time, who has very limited time, what do you think is an achievable goal right from the outset? that a young writer starting out can attain that you would steer them towards?
I tell everybody to just write. Like, even if it's 10 minutes a day or an hour a day, even if you're just writing a grocery list, you have the pen in your hand and you are physically writing. That's how I write. I am old school, pen in hand on paper. And I tell everybody just get like a few words down. And then the next day, while you're doing something else, like while you're cooking dinner, write a few more words and slowly like wiggle writing until it's a part of your daily routine.
I would have to say that based on my experience with, networking with other authors, working with other authors, the number one first goal that anybody should have is completing a draft. And it's completing a draft, because with completion, it doesn't matter if it sucks, you draft.
Are you guys planners or pantsers?
It depends on the story.
Now, up to let everybody know, a planner is somebody that sits down and does the outline and puts everything in order so whenever they sit down to write, it just falls into place. A pantser is somebody that just sits down at their writing time and just spews out thousands of words in an hour or 7.
So which one are you, Alicia?
I'm a pantser. I wrote my first book, 143, while listening to an Adele song on repeat for 6 hours. Like, that's just, yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, I agree that finishing a draft is what I would definitely say is the biggest goal that you could give a new writer or artist of any kind. And to just get over whatever, like find out what it is. If you have any fears, if you have any things that are holding you back, find out what they are, so that's the only way you can get over them, is if you know what you're dealing with. So I would say those two things, and in conjunction, I mean, you're kind of unstoppable once you figure out what it is holding you back and then you fix it, then you're definitely going to get that draft out.
Okay, I'm going to break the mold here, and I'm going to disagree with people. I love you guys. But what I would say is you need to sit down and schedule how much time you have available for writing stuff. And if that's 10 hours a week, if that's 5 hours a week, you should spend half of that time scheduled writing and half of that time scheduled networking and building your audience, because you can't start too soon. And most authors, they get the same advice that you guys are talking about, and that's get that first draft first. But if you know that your goal is to be published, now if you just want to write, go ahead, get that first draft, write, have fun, do what you're going to do. But whether you want to self-publish, whether you want to be published by a traditional publisher, if you want your book to be published and read by other people, you have to have that audience and start building it now. And a great example of that is if you look at 90% of the book bloggers out there that are building an audience with book blogs, almost 90% of them are also authors, and they're building their reading audience through their sharing their love of reading while they write that draft. And so when their first book comes out, they're not going to have that struggle that most authors have of, it takes 5 books or 7 books until you build enough of an audience to start making money. They won't have that struggle. And I did the same thing. I started out with a reading blog, and it took me 3 books before I was making a livable income. Not as much as I wanted to make, but a livable income. So that's my advice is, if you know you want to be published and you want to sell your book, spend half your writing time writing and the other half networking and building your marketing audience. Because even if you get traditionally published, you're going to have to build that audience, and you're going to have to do the work. Stephen King was selling his books out of the back of his car when he was first published. And that's how he became the huge superstar he is.
John Grisham too. And I'll tell you, I'll I'll cite an indie who has done just that and has done it brilliantly, and that's Mr. Robert Cano. He built his audience. He engaged in the Facebook community, and I'm on Twitter as well a little bit. But he was really into learning all he could learn and gathering all the information while he was still writing. And then, I mean, his part of his trepidation was his own muse betraying him a little bit, but it was the fact that he was trying to be smart about it and put it out there at the right time. And I really admire him for that. That's something that I think was very amazing about how he did what he's done. And his books, has it come out yet? It's pretty close, right?
The Dark Archer comes out at the end of the month.
Yeah.
But he has The Suffering, which came out right before we signed him. So I'm thinking like January, February, I think is when it came out, maybe March. And then we signed him for The Dark Archer because of The Suffering. And
part of the reason why I thought Alicia would be really good in this panel, and she has been, by the way, she's been fantastic, is because she is on a similar trajectory. Her book doesn't come out until the fall, and she's got a real good publisher behind her, and those ladies are very good at what they do. And she is somebody who's getting out there and putting herself out there, and I see her more and more. And partially because now we're Facebook friends and Twitter friends, so I get their algorithm feeds. But I did see her beforehand doing a lot of stuff as well. So, that's pretty impressive. I think if you are somebody who hasn't put something out yet, or even if you're somebody who's put stuff out like Heidi said, it took her 3 books to get going. So look at that as an opportunity to, market yourself and put yourself out there. We're constantly harping on, presenting yourself as the person that's behind the work, and that helps generate the buzz and get you fandom. So
I'll be perfectly honest. I started following Alicia because of her tattoo for her book marketing. Because I was like, that is darn brilliant and adorable.
That's not
what this is about.
My tattoo, actually. I met that gal just through Facebook and networking, and she has my book title tattooed on her hand.
Oh, that's
yeah, and she lives. No, I'm getting my 143 tattoo soon, but she lives in the UK. So, like, we both have roses on our hands, and she has my book title on her hand. So, like, we have that. It was just, like, it's kismet.
Well, she's the reason I started following you then, because I saw that in relation to a book, and I was like, what is this about? I have to check this out. So, yeah, totally worked.
That's awesome. I did a radio interview last month, and I was speaking with the gentleman yesterday, and he was all like, soon, just think about it. You're not going to have to network and market your own book soon. And I'm like, no, I love doing this so much, reaching out to people and getting to know them. And like, I have made a tribe is what I call them. Like, they are my tribe, and they're always like, I don't know. I hope that they know that they can come to me with anything. And I'm just building this community around these people who are helping me make my dream a reality. And like, I never want to give that up. So I love doing what I do.
That's fantastic. So anybody else want to add anything to goals? Is there something that we didn't cover that you'd like us to talk about?
I have one.
Go ahead.
So this is really generic advice that I ignored for years when goal setting, because I thought I knew better than everybody else. But if you write your dreams down and put them somewhere that you see them every day, it really does help motivate you. And I learned that 2 years ago when I was getting a little overwhelmed and frustrated. And I finally did the advice. I made this cute little print up, and I do it for my 5-year goals, and then I do it for my annual goals, and then I do it for my 90-day goals. So they're constantly changing. But when I'm having that day where technology hates me and YouTube won't answer my stupid request about why can't I, that fun drama, I just look at my goals and I go, okay, this doesn't matter, because what matters is I'm going to be here in 5 years. And if YouTube won't help me get there, I can find another way. I don't have to get angry at YouTube. I can find another way. So having that actual, it's very much like a vision chart, which kind of has this whole kind of hoodoo-y thing to it too, but it really does work, being able to actually see your goals and see your dreams. And then the same thing goes with when you track them and you're checking them off during your 90-day goals. Keep that there so you can see how much you have done. So that way, again, even if you don't hit all of them, you can see how far you have come. That visual, I mean, we are visual creatures. Humans are visual creatures, and having that visual ability just makes everything so much easier. So, yeah.
Christie, share with us a little bit of the trends. I know you want to make a video about this, so I keep bothering you to share about all of this. But share with us a little bit of the transition that you made, and how when did you start setting that goal, and how quickly did you find you got there? And was it as soon as you put it out there, you were starting to move toward it, or was it something that just happened? How did you get to where you're at right now?
Well, I have an editing company, Proof Positive, and I had started it, of course, while I was with my full-time job, and I really didn't know much about starting a business. I just did it like I do everything else. I did a ton of research, and that's pretty much all there was to starting it. I didn't have anything but a ton of research to go off of, really. So I did that, and in order to bring in people, I came up with a marketing plan. It worked, and from there, a lot of it was word of mouth. I have not really done advertising for my business, like, at all. So it really was heavily word of mouth. And I really wanted to be able to leave my job. Not that it was, some horrible job or anything like that, but really just that it wasn't my passion. And everyone wants to do their passion. So it was my goal to leave, my job, but I really wasn't sure how to go about it except with this editing business, which is what I wanted to do. I want to be an author and be an editor, and that's what I'm doing right now. So, I started somewhere, and I never felt like I was really ready, but I just did it, and did as much research as I could, and I did it. And I didn't just, I'm going to say this in my video too, but I didn't just, quit my job and hope for the best, or, start my business and quit my job or anything like that. I started my business 5 years ago, and I wanted to make sure that this was something doable. It was something realistic, just like we're talking about today. And I couldn't just start it and quit. So I started it, and, it built over the years, and I kept track of my finances and what they were looking like and what I needed in order to succeed. And really, of course, like everyone is saying, you keep that goal in mind all the time, and you kind of can't help it when that's your passion and that's what you want to do. It's always at the front of your mind. So with it being there, things start to come together, whether you mean for them to or not. That's the thing I was talking about at the beginning, where when you have that goal in mind, subconsciously, you're coming up with ways by accident, to achieve these goals that you wouldn't have thought of before. If you were just sort of starting out saying, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this, forget it, you're not going to think of the right ways to go about it. But if you just set that goal and think, I'm going to make it, somehow I'm going to make this happen, even if I don't know how, it's going to come to you. And that's how it worked for me. It just sort of rolled along until I was at a crossroads where my full-time job was either going to become what I did all the time and drop everything else, or I was going to quit it and go with editing, which had opened up a whole bunch of opportunities too. And so I had reached that fork. It was time to make a decision, and I waited until that moment, to make that decision, and then I left. So I do have to say, like, even with all the books I've read, that's the way they always say to succeed, is to keep that goal constantly at the front of your mind. And like Heidi said, you could write it down. Like Alicia said, you could have that dream that you have that's floating out there, and you just know how you want to get there, and it's going to happen.
I'm so glad that you chose the road that you chose.
Me too. I'm much happier.
Sarah, I wanted to know from you, because you're somebody who does a lot of anthologies and writes short stories and puts out a lot of work that way as well. How do you go about setting goals like that when you know that you're not in control of the outcome? So what are some of the things that you do? Is it just you just got to write it and whatever happens, or are there specific things that you look for that you know that the goal is achievable with that?
Well, there are two answers to this question, because a year ago I was trying to get into any anthology that I could. Now I'm actually being requested to these, so it's pretty much a given, unless I really mess it up, that I'm going to be in an anthology when I agree to do it. So that's very helpful. But the way I look at anthologies is, anthologies, short stories are very interesting from a plot perspective. You have to condense everything. It's a whole nother way of looking at how you construct a story. And they tend to have themes. So to me, it was like, you know what? I don't feel that I can put out more than, maybe 2 or 3 novels and novellas in a year. So in order to fill up the rest of this time, maybe, just do this stuff that will really challenge my writing. And so to me, it was always about creating the best story that I could in a way that was really challenging my writing, because, I'm not a romance writer, but I joined a romance anthology. I did a time travel anthology, and the really interesting part is I've discovered that as I have gone through these, I am finding more and more ways to make the short stories actually connected to one or more of my series. So I can actually link them back, which is great promo. But so these days I really don't have to worry too much about it being a waste of time so much, because I'm probably going to get into it. But it is interesting because, like right now I have a 6-week time period in which I have 3 short stories to write, and I'm not going to start until about a month ahead of time, because I know how long it takes me to write a short story now. And that's good, because I have other things that I need to catch up on first. But that all comes from experience, and you constantly have to push yourself and figure out, can I make this deadline? Can I do this? And never, ever, ever be afraid to go to the person who's in control of your deadline, if it's not you, and say, I need another week. A lot of times people are going to be very generous about this. So, and stuff happens, life happens. So, never just give up on something because, you're going to be 2 days late for a deadline. Talk to somebody about it first. But, how long it's going to take you to write a certain, set of words. How long does it take you to write a first draft? How clean is that first draft? How many edits are you going to need to take? Do you need to let it sit a week between times? I have to let things sit. I can't edit. So you have to take all and then work backwards. You have this is when it's due, work backwards from that. This is how long it's going to take. This is when I need to start it. Go from there.
Very awesome. That's awesome. So one of my achievable goals will happen later this evening when I timestamp this wonderful video, and you'll be able to hold me to that. I will get that done here in a couple hours. So, and we'll have it out there. So anybody who's watching this after the fact, you'll hopefully figure out how to navigate around and get the question that you're looking for. And I want to thank my awesome panel, who I want to personally, Christie probably was hoping I would forget this, but in December, we did a panel where I had everybody announce their goals out loud and to everybody, and then we were going to meet up back in. We're going to meet up later in this December. We are still planning to do that, and see how we did, and hold each other accountable for that. And so, I mean, when I say hold each other accountable, I don't mean we're gonna. We'll tar and feather you and laugh at you for a little bit. Then afterwards, we'll get on with it. But otherwise, so when you all are talking to the audience here and telling everybody where to find you, I'd love to hear you all give me a goal that you have set in the next 4 or 5 months, and invite you to come on board and join our December panel, so that we can see how well you all did. So as I do when I end this, I go right to left. So Sarah, you're up first.
Okay. I do my quarterly goals as a podcast on my YouTube channel, which is Practically Writing. And so I actually have a list of things that I do. Mostly they include doing my regular stuff. I have 3 blogs, a vlog, 5 newsletters monthly, and then I do beta reads for other authors, at least 2 a quarter. Right now I'm doing 4 this quarter. Yay me. Oh dear. But mostly I'm going to be doing, I have a workshop that I am doing with an acquaintance locally here in the next month, and that I'm doing for the local Writers Guild at their fall conference in October. So I'm going to be primarily focusing on those and the 3 short stories that I have due for anthologies by the 1st of November. So,
and tell everybody
I need, find you. Okay. Oh yes, really quick. I got a massage for Christmas last year, and I still haven't used it, and it's been on my goals list as my relaxation thing, and I still haven't used it. So, by whatever gods you believe in, I am going to use it before it is a year old. I swear. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, BookBub. Pretty much anything, not Pinterest. I don't do Pinterest. I don't know why. I find it weird. But Sarah Buhrman, author Sarah Buhrman, some version therein. You can also find me on Patreon. I'm pretty easy to find, actually. Buhrman. It's not a common last name.
Awesome. Thank you. And I wrote it down, massage, by the end of the year. I got you. All right, Heidi, you're up.
I am Heidi Angell with 2 L's, because I'm not that kind of angel. And you can find me on pretty much any social media, but most especially at my website, HeidiAngell.com, where it'll link you to everything else. And I was actually on the panel back in December, and the goal that I listed was rocking the book world, which our right side, for those of you who are following us, has been totally doing that this year. And we're going to continue doing that. But I'll give a more timely and specific goal for this, and that is that in October, I will launch the first in the Survivalist Bible series as part of MLS Weech's anthology. And then I will release 1 section each month until the series is completed. And right now it's going to be over a year before we're done, because I'm already up to 14. So, but that is starting in October and going on through all of 2019 and beyond.
Very cool. And way to go rocking it. I really, really love that. That's awesome. And yes, I knew you were on there. I knew you were there. All right, Christie, who doesn't remember her goal from December, she's going to have to go back and watch that show.
Yeah, I don't know how you knew that, but you knew. Yeah, I think my goal might have been to publish something this year. It may have been Greed originally. I'll stick with publishing something, but I'm betting it's going to be the Dark Victoriana short story that I'm working on. And I want to be halfway done with my next Dark Victoriana novel. Greed is sort of something that's totally separate, and so it's something I tend to move around a lot. It has nothing to do with my main works, so I move it around. It doesn't matter as much. The Dark Victoriana collection is really what I do. So I'm going to stick with publishing, or maybe switch it to publishing a short story for the Dark Victoriana collection, which is something I've never done before, so that'll be brand new for me, and getting halfway done with my next novel at least. And you can find me at ChristieStratos.com. I am also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. I am on YouTube with my own author channel, and I am also on YouTube with The Writer's Edge. You can find The Writer's Edge at thewritersedgeshow.com.
Very awesome. That's fantastic. You know, Dark Victoriana. Yes.
I'm excited.
Me too. All right, Alicia.
I think, well, my book comes out in October, and there's a part in my book where, like, the whole basis of 143 is that you write a 143 in the palm of your hand. So I have reached out to so many people that I have made a list of the cities and states that people have mailed me or, like, emailed me or sent me where they wrote 143 on their hand. And I would love to double that list by December, because I've made collages of people's hands from all over the world. And I just want, like, I want more hands with 143 on them.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to making that list gigantic. And you can find me on Facebook at Rebel Writer 143. Or you can add me on Facebook as a friend at Rebel Writer 1431. And I'm also on Instagram at Rebel Writer 143. I wanted to tell everybody in my tribe. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. That was awesome. That's cool. And I want to challenge the audience. I'm not only just giving homework to our panelists, I'm giving homework to our audience as well. If you have not subscribed to The Writer's Edge or the Beautiful Book Geeks, or you haven't put 143 on your palm, or you haven't gotten something from Sarah Buhrman yet, if you haven't read anything of hers, go and do it now. You have been challenged. I will hold you all accountable. All right. So subscribe to these wonderful people's playlists and everything that they do, and follow them, i.e. stalk them, and get out there and enjoy everything that they're doing, because they are awesome. They were awesome tonight. This was a fantastic panel. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here and doing this with me. And I really appreciate, and great questions, great audience, as always. Thank you, guys. And remember that it's always time to go indie now, and we'll see you again soon. All right, everybody, take care.